Well, hello and welcome to our retro movie review for 1985's Back to the Future. Stephen, one of the greatest movies ever made, certainly one of the greatest time-travelling conundrum-producing movies ever made. It has everything, really. It's a movie which seemed to capture lightning in a bottle, but unlike other shit franchises which did the same, recaptured it a couple of times at least after that. We'll say one, but the third one's good as well, but I don't know if it quite eclipsed or equaled what we got in these first two movies. But Steve, we're talking about the first one,
yes,
not the second one. I'm sure that will come at some point. This lockdown's continuing, so we will just keep discussing retro movie reviews. What was your thoughts on this movie?
Well, John, I can remember.
What's this going?
I can remember when this film came out. That's how old I am. 1985 was going to be a big year for two films. Back to the Future being one of them, and the second one, which I thought was going to be the biggest film of the year,
yes.
Rocky IV. I did. I was looking forward to Rocky IV more than I was Back to the Future.
My throat's still dying, Stephen. Save me.
Just because it was a sequel to a successful franchise at this point. Little did I know, obviously the longevity of both films, what would outrun the other one. It was like a bit like the what was it, the hare and the, what was it again?
The rabbit.
The rabbit is the
jackrabbit.
The tortoise.
The turtle.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's just one of these. It's just one of these things, You talk about lightning in a bottle, John, and it's a pardon the pun moment, isn't it? But this film, I knew Robert Zemeckis for some of his films previous. Romancing the Stone probably was the big one at the time, I think the year before. Michael J. Fox, who I knew from Family Ties, that's what I knew him from, because Teen Wolf hadn't been released yet. There was that actually was put back until the success of Back to the Future, and then that rode on the coattails of the success of Back to the Future. Christopher Lloyd I knew from Taxi, amazing actor,
which revealed itself to me through The Man on the Moon, because of course that charted that time in history.
But the likes of Tom Wilson, Crispin Glover, and I can't remember
Leah
Thompson.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about at this point. I didn't really know. I do believe Crispin Glover appeared in one of the episodes of Family Ties, but again, I wouldn't have known that at the time. So time travel, John, as well. It's one of my favourite topics. It's certainly, if it's done right, there's been some howlers over the years. I've did a few reviews actually on our website talking about some. I don't want to mention them. You can go and find those ones out if you want.
There's been some great ones as well.
If you want to go and waste time, then do that. But there's been some great ones, John. Obviously, the Time Machine is a standout one for me. Yeah. That was the one I was introduced by my dad. The George Powell one, starring Rod Taylor.
Yes, the great.
Yeah, and it was just a fascinating tale to me. Just everything about that. Time and space, and it was explained very well in that film how it works. Although those sort of buffoons that were with George in that film didn't really understand what he was talking about. They were all educated men as well. They were all doctors and stuff like that, but they couldn't understand what he was talking about. I got it, and I was just a kid.
It's a mind bender though, isn't it?
But I was looking forward to this film, John. It had everything. It had a DeLorean in it, for Christ's sake. Skateboarding.
And a better DeLorean than what we actually got in reality, because it's actually a good car that has a purpose.
And it's just everything about it. It's one of these films, John, one of these franchises, but we're talking about this film in isolation today.
I think it's impossible. Yeah, you just can't. I mean, Stephen, that was blooding into the second one for me. Yeah. I mean, I was flinging quotes at you, and you were saying, "No, that's the second one, John." I'm talking about scenes. No, that's the second one, John. I'm like, oh,
well, John, I think it's obvious. Obviously, I'm a bit of a fan of.
Yes, for sure.
Back to the Future, But
absolutely.
Listen, I grew up with this film. I was 9 years old when it. I think I was just the right age when this came out. So excited for it. But I'm sure as we get into this review, we'll share our thoughts on different parts, different elements, acting, score, the cast, etc. It's everything in this film.
And hopefully my voice can last through it, Steve, because it had nearly gone at the start there. I was trying to laugh at your Rocky comment and I was nearly choking. So that's a great start. Yeah, Chester. So let's get into it before I actually lose my voice, because that would be very embarrassing. Introduction, Stephen. What an introduction to this movie we get. It's almost like the house with the clock in its walls. There's so many clocks.
Yeah.
They're all out of sync by 25 minutes, I want to say. We don't find that out until later on, though.
Yeah.
I've said it's a great mixture of exposition and character building. In this case, Doc Emmett Brown, it builds the character delightfully, really, in the first 5 minutes of the movie. He's not even in the movie for about 10-15 minutes, I want to say 10 maybe, and we already know or have a sense of what this guy is all about.
Definitely.
He's eccentric, he's a hoarder, he has clippings up. It tells you what happened to his house because he lives in a goddamn garage. So we'll get little snippets. It frames this guy's existence, really. You see the failed attempts at inventions. The toaster, you have a semi-successful one with the dog can opener.
That's disgusting, that scene.
And then obviously the amplifier as well with the tiny little guitar. That's a success. Too successful because of course Marty comes in. He's shouting on Doc. Again, it establishes that he's not been in the house for a while too. So he's off doing something. You have the plutonium thing as well.
It's under
That's
the bed,
went missing.
Yeah.
So it does a beautiful job of establishing this guy out. And then obviously later on in the movie, 10 minutes or so, when we discover that he's proclaiming he has built a time machine in a DeLorean, it gives you that sense of he's talking absolute crap here. There's no way he's built a DeLorean.
Good way to do it, John. I mean, obviously the newscaster on, I think the television's one of the switch that switches the television on is one of his inventions as well. And obviously the person on the news is talking about this missing plutonium. It went, I think 3 weeks ago it went missing. Marty's skateboard rolls right under the bed and hits the box of plutonium. So much going on. It's so much depth. It's a great way to tell the story, isn't it? But you're right, John. It also gives you a sense of the way Doc lives his life and the way he, his work as his life. You see all the empty Burger King wrappers lying all over the place. Like, eating's is an inconvenience to him because he's so steeped in his work, But you're right, I think all these little inventions we see along the way in the first opening shots, it's just an indication that he's a bit inconsistent with the success of his inventions, and I think that sets it up nicely when we do get introduced to the character as well. And very compulsive too, so he will go out his way to make sure that these inventions come to fruition, which is why he's doing back behind the scenes, whatever jobs and deals with Libyans to try and get plutonium to fuel this time machine. Stephen, we obviously get Marty blowing himself into the cabinet behind him with the amp. He has a conversation with Doc through the phone, I want to say. He explains that it's a success. They're 25 minutes behind. My experiment works.
The experiment works. He then says, Jesus, I'm late for school. He goes out. You've got the power of love playing. He's on a skateboard. He's hitching rides on trucks and whatnot.
Cool, yeah.
Such a cool scene. It's going round that set. It's just an amazing set. It's been used in so many movies. It's just beautifully shot. The sound's booming. It's retro. Well, it wasn't retro back then. It was actually the 1980s. But now it's like nostalgic. You feel like you're in the 80s.
Ironically,
when you watch
it is. It's it's obviously a period in our time now. But back then it was just the norm. Yes, and it's so cool. I actually thought Chevy Chase had made a cameo in this scene for a long time. You're talking about the guy in the Jeep, aren't you? The guy in the Jeep. A lot of people actually thought that was Steven Spielberg. Oh, there you go. Pre-Beard, obviously. It could be. Was it ever revealed who he was? I think it was confirmed it wasn't. No, so it's just some gonk on the set then. That's terrible. But Stephen, what did you make about Marty when he actually goes to school and whatnot, and just seeing Strickland, the bald-headed taskmaster, very hard taskmaster for the first time, being introduced to Jennifer and whatnot, and then obviously that takes us into when he finally does. Well, we'll not get to that yet. He goes home and he sees his father and whatnot. What did you make about the establishing of Marty early on in this movie? He's a very cool guy. Yeah, he's cool, John. There seems to be a surface coolness about him, but I think underneath there is a bit of apprehension about him. I think he doubts his abilities as a musician. Yeah, there's a great line that mimics his father. Yeah, because he's I think after the introduction to the character, where we do see him doing all the cool stuff with the skateboards, and, deep down I think he still has a bit of his father in him. He obviously did the auditions at the school bands thing, which was pretty cool. There's a little cameo from Huey Lewis in there who tells him these are just too damn loud. It's quite cool. And his guitar playing was exemplary. When him and Jennifer are walking through that sort of square, and he's starting to doubt his abilities. He doesn't think he's cut out. Jennifer's trying to give him a bit of encouragement, saying, "But you're good, Marty. You should send your audition tape away." There's a little bit at the end of the film where you actually see him with the envelope in the house, that's him about to post it because the confidence is there. But we'll talk about that obviously later on.
And Stephen, you actually mentioned something getting into the second movie where there is little incremental changes in the character, which is so cool. But again, we'll get onto that perhaps at some point later on in the review. It also takes us, as I did say, he makes his home. We're introduced to the McFlys, obviously George McFly and whatnot, and
the car's wrecked.
The car is wrecked, yes. But I think this is such an important scene for so many reasons, because it sets up the tone of what the family unit is like. His father's a complete gonk.
Yeah.
He's getting bullied by this idiot of a ex-bully that's really transgressed 30 years worth of bullying. Biff, obviously.
Yeah.
His mother's an alcoholic, overweight washout, essentially.
Yeah,
it's introducing the dysfunctional side of this family. It's a very dysfunctional family. And just the toll that this bullying has had on the family unit and whatnot, they're not very happy.
No.
So I think that sets the tone for the movie going forward, because even though he doesn't want to disrupt the future back in 1955, there's certainly improvements that can be made to this family unit, and we see that as we go to the end of the movie. I thought that was such an important scene. What did you make? Did you think that was a tone-setting scene for the story?
I think the introduction to George and obviously Biff was important to the story, John. Obviously he's wrecked the car, but for some reason George is apologising to him for the situation. He spilt beer over who's going to pay for the dry cleaning and stuff like that. And then he's getting into George's fridge and complaining about all he's got is a light beer. And Marty, to a point, wants to stand up to him, but I think even he knows physically he can't. Biff's a towering figure, and he's quite a burly man. And I think at that point as well, he's still got that kind of aggression in him and the bully mentality in him that he would fancy his chances taking on Marty as well. And I think Marty kind of has to rein it in, because he realises he might not be a match for him, even though he's 30 years older than him. But it just
shows you the systemic abuse that this guy is taking. He's just he's beaten into submission. He's taking shit in his own home. He's an emotional and physical wreck. He's just not capable of overcoming that bullying.
And it's having an effect on the rest of the family. You can sense the resentment in Lorraine. The way she looks at George as if, I can't believe I've stuck with you all this time, and she's drinking heavily as well. You notice it's product placement, but there's a lot of vodka bottles stoking around that kitchen that's obviously hers. Dave's not getting any confidence at all. He's still living at home. So's Linda. I think they look maybe about 10 years older than Marty. I think that's just probably the Michael J. Fox having that youthful look about him. But there's just that having that knock-on effect, and it all stems from Biff's behaviour. And what this sort of shadow he's put over this family for decades. So it's quite grim, it really is. I can understand why we were talking about this, John, Marty and his relationship with Doc. Marty's got friends outside, obviously. We don't establish the friends like Needles and that until the second film. But he's got the Pinheads, his band, etc. So he keeps himself busy, but the relationship between obviously him and Doc was obviously one that we questioned, certainly nowadays, but we'll get into that.
We can get into that right now if you want, Steve.
I think the reason for that is because he's not really got a father figure, and I think he sees Doc as a father figure to an extent. Although he is his friend, I don't think he can look to George for any guidance in his life or anything like that. Certainly Doc's not the answer, he's barely holding his own life together, but it's all these little things, John, and maybe we look into these things too much. It is a film, it's just a film at the end of the day, but I think it's just the way these characters are set up, the way they're written, and the way the relationships sort of bounce off each other as well, that makes this film such a success. There's a lot of investment in the characters in this. It's all the little sort of
nuances.
The nuances and all the little sort of mannerisms and stuff like that they've all got. They all have a result of something, and certainly in George's case, you're right, he is an absolute wreck. But we find out obviously in the 1950s he's exactly the same. He's terrified of this guy.
Stephen, look, I think you're right, what you says about the characters popping. It's something that makes it so enjoyable. I think every great movie has that. It's just a degree of writing under the surface. It just makes everything feel right. And I think the casting is just exemplary across this whole movie. It's just a combination of the actors, the writing, the amazing production and costume designs and whatnot. It just makes it pop. We can get into that actually before we move on to the next scene, just that relationship between Doc and Marty. That would not fly. Put a pun on it. It's a terrible fun. McFly, that would not McFly. And in the 21st century, 2020, you could not do a movie like this with a relationship like that and get away with it. It'd get destroyed by people on social media,
I
Twitter
think
and
Marty
whatnot.
and Doc don't give a flux.
No, they don't give a flux.
Let's just make a whole
Yes.
pun show here.
Oh no, it'll get worse and worse, Stephen.
Yeah.
When McFly's the start and the best you can come up with, you're on to ever diminishing returns. So we'll end that there. But yeah, I mean, it's a strange relationship. It wouldn't work now, but there's an innocence to this movie which we also spoke about that carries it, and a certain other element of the movie which we'll get into once we get into 1955 in this review. There's something about the way it's crafted, it just feels right. And people are different now to what they were back in the 1980s.
Yeah.
A little bit less.
Yeah, they're more cynical, John.
Yeah,
Let's
they're
be
not as
honest,
naive. Well, I don't like to say people in the 80s were naive, because they certainly
No.
weren't, not a chance. But people are a little bit more cynical now, you're right. But Stephen, obviously Marty does meet up with Doc in the parking lot, and he has a little conversation. He obviously reveals that he has created a time machine in a DeLorean. He sends, I think, Einstein off to test it. Poor dog. He comes back and that reveals that he's actually telling the truth. It's a success. I think you made a very cool little observation in that Marty isn't so much caring about the time machine and being able to go off to different times in history or in the future, and that he sees the potential to perhaps take this car out and take Jennifer out on a nice little date. And
well, that was the plan for the weekend. He was going to take Jennifer up to the lake in the family car. Obviously Biff put a hex on that plan with crashing it. So he sees this DeLorean and you can see his face lighting up. As if, oh great, I can ask Doc, can I borrow the DeLorean? And that'd be a perfect vehicle to take up to the lake. But that's his focus at that point. He doesn't realise obviously what this thing can do. Well, to be fair, none of them do, because they obviously have to try it out. They try it out in poor Einstein with a remote control. There's some really good scenes and some good lines as well. Obviously, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious, that line as well. But it's just great, it's set up well. As there's a funny line as well. Just prior to that, when Doc phones Marty at 1 a.m. and he's sleeping in his bed. You didn't fall asleep, did you? Of course he did. He's a kid. Yeah. It's 1 a.m.
And he sleeps very strangely, incidentally. We can't not speak about the fact he lies on his belly. Yeah. That's wrong, I'm sorry. I'm a guy who lies on my back. That's the correct way to sleep. On your belly. What are you doing, Michael J. Fox? No. Yes, Stephen, it was a great scene. It really was.
Twin Pines Mall, yeah.
Twin Pines Mall, that's a tongue twister and a half. Also, the Libyans come round just as the party's getting into full flow and they kill poor old Doc.
Yeah, because
Marty has to die. And how did he get into that car and wheel it out of that truck? You're absolutely right, Stephen. And another observation.
The wing doors, John. He must have drove it in and sat in the car the whole time because he couldn't get out it. Then
that's why he's phoning Marty, because he doesn't want
where are you? You didn't fall asleep, did you? I'm stuck in this. But it's amazing what you can think of, the things that happen off screen, isn't it? Maybe that will be a show one day that we can do. But there's something about that. There's little bits, that are so funny. Obviously, the Doc gave the Libyans a case full of used pinball machine parts or something like that. He was doubling up as a bomb, but the Volkswagen as well, the camper van, John, it's iconic, isn't it? Anytime I see one of them now, they're very rare now. You don't really get to see them as much as you used to in the 1980s, but when you do see them, my daughter, who's a big Back to the Future fan, she's only 7, when she sees one of the camper vans, she'll point and go, look, the Libyans, and she'll do a Doc voice, so again, this is another thing we have to talk about. It's obviously generation to generation, this film, it just seems to transcend, and the story as well just seems to adapt well to every generation that gets to see this film.
Stephen, there's something about 70s and 80s movies that seem to have that element to them that modern day movies seem to lack. I mean, they're big bombastic, they have the visuals, the CG and all of that technical mastery.
Very hollow,
but the hollow, they're lacking something. And even movies going back that have got no CG, they relied on storytelling and big huge sets and whatnot. They have that rewatchability and certain attraction to them that these movies these days just seem to lack for some reason. But obviously Marty dives in, it's already preset. I can't actually recall the exact date, but
November 5, 1955.
I don't know 1955, but I couldn't remember the actual month. And he's whisked back. He has to. He's fearing for his life. The Libyans have killed his old friend.
Shocking scene.
Yes, it is a shocking scene. You've took him out. You've very little screen time at the start of this movie for poor old Doc.
Yeah.
But again, he established the character so well. He takes him to. He obviously burns up the tyres. He goes to 1955.
Full Farmer Peabody's farm,
Yes, and crashes. I think they think he's an
barn,
alien.
yeah.
Yes, a UFO. He tries to kill him with a shotgun. And poor old Marty's not really got a clue what's happened. He don't think at this point he's even aware that he's in 1955.
I think he still thinks it's a dream, John.
Yes, until he stokes out, as we say here in Scotland, walks out from other countries to that town square, and what a scene
that
that
the lines
is,
estates as well, John, no, just before he gets to there, it's in the middle of the countryside.
It's not been made
that's
yet.
Obviously not been developed yet.
Fantastic.
I think that's the first sort of realisation where he's thinking, this has got to be a dream, this is an absolute nightmare. There's obviously that old couple as well. I can never know what they're saying in that car. Don't stop. I can't remember what it is, but I can never make out the line that the old lady's saying to the old fella that's driving the car when Marty's asking for help.
That kid's got a life preserver on.
It really is a strange line, and maybe there's someone out there that can clear that up for us, because after 30 odd years I can never make out what she's saying. I don't know what she's saying, but yeah, you're right, John, this leads us up obviously to Hill Valley sort of town square. It's an iconic set, as you said. It's been used in so many films. I think To Kill a Mockingbird, Gremlins used it as well, Bruce Almighty, some videos, music videos have been made there as well. So it's just one of those sets. I think writer Bob Gale, the producer as well, said that they did try scouting other locations, but for some reason they kept going back to this set. I think as well, I think the time they were shooting was round about Christmas time as well, just coming up to the Christmas period, and most real life towns were starting to set up their Christmas decorations, and it would cost them too much to do, and it made sense for them. The film's made by Universal, they've got a set there to use, so why not have it there? But it's a great setup, and also just everything about the set as well, John. It's so
it's unique.
Yeah, it's unique,
yes.
And it's just down to the little detail as well. Everything in the 50s, the newspaper that's thrown in the bin, that always didn't make sense to me. Must have been about 6-7 in the morning. This guy's binning today's newspaper. Yeah. You don't do that,
No, that was your source of entertainment.
You do that at the end of the day, not 6 in the morning when obviously it's just hot off the press. But
maybe he's a brainiac and he'd already done the crosswords and he's a speed reader. I don't know, Stephen. Yeah. But it's a magnificent scene. Just everything Mr. Sandman's playing, and he's looking around absolutely awestruck. All the cars, you nailed it. All the little sounds mingling in with the actual music. It's just a beautiful scene. It marinates lovely on the eyes. He's completely disabled. He's not got a clue what's happening. I think he gets into the diner, and your man who's soon to be the mayor, I've actually wrote his name down, Goldie Wilson, is a cleaner, and I think there's a conversation between him and the barman. He's, why are you wearing a life preserver and whatnot? Yeah, this is a recurring theme. I mean, it's a body gillet warmer, whatever you want to call it. And obviously he's saying, one day I'll be the mayor of this town. I think there's a slightly racist remark.
Coloured mayor?
Yeah, coloured mayor.
That'll be the day,
And then obviously Marty's like, no, you should be mayor, you'll be a great mayor. He's like, yes, I will be a great mayor. So again, Steve, just beautifully, I mean, what you says earlier, there's just something about this movie. Everything pops, the characters pop, the set pops. It feels lived in. It's almost like a modern day, real world setting, Star Wars style, where it's grimy, lived in, it just feels right. Also, I think he meets George at this point as well. I'm pretty damn sure he does. He's sitting there, yes, and what an absolute magnificent head of hair Crispin Glover is possessing, and just something about his style as well. It's goofy, but he would look okay these days. He'd look cool as hell these days.
Yeah, he does look cool these days.
He's a complete gonk, even back then, Stephen. Maybe even more of a gonk back in 1955 than in 1985, if I can speak correctly. And he's looking at him, and I think there's a side shot, he's just gazing at him as if, what the hell's going on? That is my dad. Yeah,
George can sense it as well. Yes. And he actually drops his spoon and says, what, doesn't he? And just before he actually interrupts, that's when I think Goldie kind of interrupts and says, stand tall, boy, and that kind of thing, do you think I'm going to spend all my time in this slop house? And he's like, I'll be mayor one day and I'm going to clean up this town. And I think Lou, his name is, the cafe owner, says, well, good, you can start with sweeping this floor. Yes. I can tell I know this film. Yes. But you're incredible. Right, John, obviously the introduction to Biff as well, as a young Biff, obviously been introduced to him as an older guy in his late 40s, but this is a 17-year-old Biff, it's exactly the same as the 47-year-old one, apart from obviously his physical sort of presence. You know, he's a lot slimmer. His posture's, you know, more of a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
He's got his gang behind him as well. They're just as bad. You know, they're like the sycophants to for Biff. But there's a great bit in this scene as well, John, where they're all homing in on George, poor George, you know, and he's obviously, you know, just browbeaten with these people, you know. But one of the guys homes in on Marty's life preserver and says the doc thinks he's going to drown. And there's a bit where George actually laughs at this as if, great, the heat's off me, let's go and pick on this guy now. Yeah. It doesn't last that long, right enough, maybe about a second, and the heat's back on George. It's all to do with obviously finishing off Biff's homework or something like that, because he needs time to obviously rewrite it and stuff like that. It actually mirrors the opening scene that we see in 1985 where George is doing all Biff's reports. So basically they work together in the future. You know, Biff's his superior, I think he says. You know, so nothing's changed, you know, and you can see that in that cafe scene right away, John, the diner scene. You know, but there's not a lot of interaction between Marty and George at this point. I think George actually disappears on his bike. Yeah. Marty's got to go and chase him, and that leads obviously to the car accident.
Stephen, again, it's just the injustice as well, as what he says. He ends up being his superior despite poor old George doing all of the work to get him into that position.
Well, I never thought of that.
It's just a complete injustice, right. Really. And again, there's just undercurrents. I mean, we'll get into this. There was obviously controversy at the end of this movie, the way it was handled with Crispin Glover and Bob Gale and Bob Zemeckis. Yeah. The choices they made, but there is an air of an undercurrent of themes being explored in terms of bullying and just the effects of it, and there's things going on amongst the coolness of this movie. But you're right, obviously he goes off on the bike, he goes to peep on poor old Lorraine.
I know.
He peeps on her from a tree. This romantic sort of little semblance of romance that Lorraine has kept in her mind for George all those years, 30 years, where she's this sort of nightingale, I want to say. The effect is when the person's hurt and they have to go and look after him, and romance develops from that. Yeah. That's kind of a besmirched in this scene because he's an absolute peeping Tom shit. He's a little creep. Yeah. He falls off a tree and gets struck with her father's car, and that's what brings them together. So even that romantic little thing, that the thread that's kept them together through all of the regrets and obviously her not being completely content with her life, that has even been sullied in 1955. So there's something beautiful about that as well. But obviously this has lasting ramifications for the rest of this movie, because obviously in the original 1955 George was hit, as I did say, but in this Marty comes in, saves his father, not really realising, I mean, his mother clearly tells the story now on every day, and he thinks, no, I'll save my father.
I think it's instinct, isn't it?
Yes, instinct. And then that obviously swaps George with Marty, and his mother is absolutely infatuated with him now. She's calling him Calvin because he's wearing Calvin Klein boxers. Yeah. And then also that sets up the whole story in 1955. Really, there's a solid foundation there. She's infatuated with him. He has to try and get them back together, rewrite history because it's now out of sync, whilst working with Emmett Brown to try and get the hell out of this timeline. But he's not met Emmett yet, so I'm getting ahead of myself.
That's the two problems he's got to deal with now, John, in this film, and obviously we've got to deal with it as well as the audience. But yeah, I mean, everything about it, you know, the big talk obviously at the time, you know, with certain studios, certainly Disney had an issue with it. You know, Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale had a hard time trying to sell this film as it is. You know, it wasn't seen as a sort of you know, the sort of comedies of the day were a little bit more touch and go, if you like, with sex and stuff like that. You know, this was seen as quite tame, apart from obviously the mother and son thing, which I think it was only Disney that picked up on that as being very weird and creepy. You know,
again, which speaks volumes about the time.
Yeah, we were talking about it. You know, there is an innocence to this. You know, Lorraine doesn't know who Marty is at this point. There's not any sort of physical connection between the two of them. She obviously sees this boy as he's a handsome guy, but as you said, it's that sort of Florence Nightingale effect. It's just having, you know, an effect on her. Marty's he's not aware of it until Doc points this out at the school later on in the film. You know, and as it's really just Marty replacing George in this scenario at this point. So, you know,
it's a plot device.
Yeah, you know, it certainly is. You know, and it means that the film's not just based on Marty trying to get back home. There is something else he's got to do. Yeah. So basically, the stuff about him having to get back home is sort of put on the burdens on Doc to work that part out for him.
And it's a really intelligent way of compartmentalising the story. Because if you've got an actor of Christopher Lloyd standing,
give him something.
You give him something. So he has that more cerebral side of things to do, working out how to utilise this lightning strike and whatnot. Whereas Marty has his own 17-year-old brain side things to deal with, which is more in line with getting his father and his mother back together, maybe,
stuff,
and having a more enriching, better future as a result. Stephen, you're right. I mean, it was. I mean, we were speaking about this before we came on. For a moment, it was awkward because you're like realising, Jesus Christ, that's her son. She's got a little.
We
thing
know
for
that,
him
but
now.
she doesn't.
Yes,
that's the thing.
But it quickly goes away because, as you did say, there's an innocence, and I think the fact that he is uncomfortable later on, Marty, when it's revealed to him what's going on, that takes the uncomfortableness off of the actual viewer as well, because you're laughing at his uncomfortableness. It's almost like what he says with George being the bully. He's been bullied, but when that gets changed to Marty, then he has a little joke and yes, I'm not the person that's feeling uncomfortable anymore. So that's almost like that with the audience as well. It's strange because Marty in many ways is the audience's eye into this world.
He's a master ceremonies, John,
but at the same point with that, you're kind of laughing at him, so that takes you out, so that's cool. Stephen, obviously he does meet Doc. We briefly spoke about that. It's very, very cool, this scene, because he's got a full mansion. It's not just a garage. A full incredible house, which obviously was revealed was burnt down. But even though he's still an absolute whack ball. I was about to say he's slightly different, but he's not. He's walking around with that mind reading thing on his head and whatnot. I think he reveals that he bumped his head or something like that, or maybe Marty reveals that when he's trying to convince him that he's from the future and he knew him in the future.
He slipped in his toilet.
So it was very cool, and obviously what he gets, how he gets him to believe that he's actually from the future. I think it's the flux capacitor.
The drawing.
He does a drawing. He's like, that would be something I would do. But there's, again, amazing dialogue in this sequence. He's talking about presidents. Ronald Reagan.
The actor.
The actor. Again, I think he says something about a vice president.
Jerry Lewis,
and first lady. And it's just, again, amazingly written by Zemeckis and Gale. It's just absolutely stupendous. What did you make about the proper introduction for Doc, I'll say, because that parking lot one wasn't a great introduction. He was introduced. He has a couple of lines, but this is the proper introduction to this character. They set him up in the first scene, the exposition with what and who he is, but this is the first time you get to see him properly, and it's in the past. It's Back to the Future.
He's an absolute mad scientist, John. That's basically it. Just the way he works. He lives alone. He's got his dog.
And another dog.
The dog's name's not established in the first one, but we know obviously from the third one it's Copernicus. But it did leave the question: was that the same dog? It was in 1985. Surely it can't physically be that possible, but
unless it was time travelling all along.
But there's just something about it. What he calls him Future Boy, doesn't he?
Yes.
It's just he thinks it's one. I get the impression that Doc gets wound up with the youth quite a bit. Just the way he is. He's got a reputation. Obviously, Strickland knows his reputation as being a bit of a harebrain. He's trouble. And you end up getting into trouble. In fact, Strickland was right about that. He did say, he's going to get you into trouble. And it doesn't get any worse than getting sent back in time, does it? But
and he must have realised as well. Why is a 17-year-old boy hanging around with some crazed old scientist in a garage next to Burger King? It's all very strange. So in many ways, Strickland is viewed upon as a sort of interfering annoyance in this movie, but he's actually the voice of reason in many ways.
He's like a sort of moral compass. But I think that was Doc's sort of impression of Marty. Oh, here we go, one of these kids again trying to wind me up now. Came from the future. What is this? But obviously the whole toilet slipping, hitting his head as a vision of the flux capacitor. Brings it around. They bring back the DeLorean back to the lab as well. Doc can't believe it. One of his inventions. I think he actually says that, doesn't he? It works. Finally, I've invented something that works. And we were all doubting that. We're all doubting that, obviously, when they were trying the experiment at the start of the film with Einstein in the car. But it's just a great setup. Bringing the DeLorean back to the lab, obviously, and this is where it gives Doc Brown a purpose in life now. He knows what he's got to do. He's got to dedicate the rest of his life into inventing this time machine, and he's got to work out a way, obviously, to get Marty back. In fact, he watches the video recordings on the JVC camcorder. It's another iconic camcorder, isn't it? There's a lot of product placement in this, the Nike boots and stuff like that.
Yeah, there has been throughout the whole franchise.
The Goodyear tyres, I think that was an 80s thing as well, But getting back to the point, John, he watches the playback of the 1.21 gigawatts, realises I can't generate that kind of power. The only kind of power that will generate it out with plutonium is a bolt of lightning. That's what I like about this film. How do you bring that into conversation? How do you know when lightning's going to strike? Well, they set that up in the first part of the film with the lady with the flyer.
Woman,
and the other thing I like about it is, normally when you get a flyer like that, if you're a 17-year-old, you do that bin. But Jennifer puts her phone number on that piece of paper, making Marty hold on to that piece of paper.
And again,
it's brilliant writing.
Yeah, right, Stephen, it really is. And that is what makes this movie so good. It's the standard of writing, these two guys working in conjunction, the great cast. I say it again, it's just amazing. It's one of the best trilogies of all time for me. There's not many trilogies can really stick the landing with a great start, a great middle story, and then stick the landing. But this one, I mean, even The Godfather couldn't do it.
No.
Godfather 3 is an abomination of a movie compared to those first two. But Back to the Future manages it. The original Star Wars trilogy managed it.
Yep.
And it's because of what he says. Stephen, obviously, they then go to, I don't know if I'm missing a school scene here. I'm pretty sure I'm not. Maybe
they go to the school, John.
Yes, they go to the school and he meets him in the canteen. George McFly, doesn't he?
Well, he meets his father. I think he's getting kicked.
Yes, that's right. He's got a sticker on his back. Yeah,
kick me. And basically the whole thing is you really just to introduce Doc to George and Lorraine and what they're like. Not in person or anything like that, just as a sort of background. Just watching it from afar. Yeah. And basically,
that's how he reveals it's the Nightingale effect.
Yeah, and Marty's absolute, to his horror, what you try to say, my mum's get the hots for me, it's disgusting, isn't
it? How hard it's going to be to get these two together, because they have nothing in common.
She's infatuated with Marty as well, or Calvin, and she doesn't, she kind of knows who George is, because she kind of refers to George McFly, oh yeah, he's kind of cute, that kind of thing, but you can tell she's got no interest in him at this point.
Crispin.
And George, this highlights just how much of a loser and a joke he is in the school, with all the kids kicking his rear end, with the kick me sign. We get introduced to Strickland again. Jesus, didn't a guy ever have hair? It's a great line. It's so funny. I think he's actually got a little bit at the back, hasn't he? But he's just a great character. I like Strickland, but there's just this great interaction between them. But it shows that Marty's got this. This is to set up Marty's sort of purpose in the film at this point now. What he's got to do. We already got what Doc's got to do with obviously the technical side of things, working that part out. Marty's get probably the hardest part. Well, maybe obviously. How do you make someone fall in love with someone? I think that's probably harder than trying to do what Doc's doing.
And not just that, he's also bonding with his father, who he reveals at the start of the movie.
Why do you keep following me?
Yeah, Jesus, I'm starting to sound like my father.
Yeah.
So he's got that almost disgust that he has nothing in common with his father. His father's a joke, he doesn't want to be like him. And when he starts bonding with him, he realises, no, look, I can craft this guy into something better.
Yeah, Daddy-o, yeah.
Yes, so it's really, I like that element of this story as well, because I just love Crispin Glover. So the more you get of Crispin in a movie, the happier I, generally speaking, will be. He does have that interaction, I'm pretty damn sure, in the canteen as well, where he reveals he likes comics and whatnot. He'll not go to the dance.
No.
Because he's not interested, essentially.
He's writing science fiction stories.
Yeah. And then that takes us to that amazing scene at night where Marty also breaks into his dad's room and he says, "Silence, Earthling, I think. I am Darth Vader of the planet Vulcan." He does the I can't even do it, the V. And he's obviously got the full, more so than ever, this resonates. He has the hazmat suit on with the gas mask, and he's playing the music at 200 decibels. Van Halen, An amazing sequence, but this obviously confirms or convinces is the correct word, George, that he has to ask out Lorraine. He has to pluck up the courage, because this guy's came from the planet Vulcan and he's going to melt him.
He's going to melt his brain,
so we get that amazing scene thereafter, probably one of the best scenes in the entire movie, Steve. The diner chase scene.
Fantastic, John,
obviously sprouts out from it. And I think George goes over to Lorraine and says, I am your density. Instead of, and again, the hair's flopping down the book. He's just a cool
he's
guy.
A nervous
Despite being
John.
a goon, he's cool.
He's obviously not used to asking girls out or anything like that, you know, and it's a big pressure on him.
Cool in terms of looks.
But he feels the pressure, obviously, from this visitor from outer space, you know, what if melt his brain. In fact, there's a bit where Marty actually says, let's keep this brain melting between ourselves. Don't tell anybody about this. You'll think you're mad. Well, you are mad. But it's a great scene, John. It sets up nice because there's a little moment where Lorraine actually goes, you know, he's actually an alright guy. You know, you can tell he's a decent enough guy. Apart from obviously climbing on trees, trying to look at myself when I'm in my underwear. But apart from that, you know, he's a decent guy, you know. And there's an innocence about him as well, you know. And you can see that she's kind of taken to him just at that point. Biff comes in with his cronies. Hey,
McFly!
You know, thought I told you not to ever come in here again.
Yeah.
You know, and it just sets up the scene for, once again, Marty's got to step in, you know, and that hook he gives Biff across the table.
What's that or something?
Yeah, and then he knocks down the you know, the henchmen, you know, the like dominoes, they fall down. Yeah. And it starts, you know, he's rushing out the diner, you know, and he sees the little kid on the sort of skateboard, the box cart thing. Yeah. He rips off the box cart part of it. And the Alan Silvestri music as well, which we will probably get into.
Yeah, we have to get into that just now, Stephen. Really.
This is probably one of the sort of standout bits, because obviously at the start of the film we got Huey Lewis in the News, you know, the soundtrack, but the score kicks in at this point. It's one of the best sequences I've ever seen in such a confined space. You know, we're talking about the lift scene in The Winter Soldier. You know, this is a bit more obviously spread out over a square, but just everything that's happening in this scene, you know, you've got Biff and his cronies in their car trying to chase Marty around this square. He's grabbing onto different vehicles trying to outwit them, and then obviously there's this great scene when they're throwing bottles at him as well. You know, these guys are nuts. You know, they're not just your average 17-year-olds, they're absolute hooligans. But
what a car Biff has, incidentally.
It's an absolute stunning car, John, the black car. I don't know what the make of it is. I maybe have to look right into that.
Maybe a Chevrolet or something.
It's definitely quality material, but the bit where Marty realises he's going to ram me right into this manure truck, I need to do something now, jumps over, runs along a car, the skateboard goes underneath the car, times it nicely, lands on the skateboard. Biff and these guys can't believe it, they're looking behind them, not concentrating what they're about to hit. They obviously hit the manure truck, all that shit's all over them.
Yeah, and that's something that continues. That's a theme that just seems to develop through every movie. There is echoes in this movie, poetry in motion. Also Marty's skateboarding around the square at the start of the movie. He does it again in 1955.
There's a bit where he wakes up and thinks it's a dream. That's done in the three films as well, you know.
Yeah, it's so intelligently crafted, Steve, in this story over 3 movies.
Yeah.
I mean, they talk about time travel, we'll get into that in a moment as well.
Yeah.
I think this is the best time travel movie, I really do. I mean, you touched upon the time machine and whatnot, but there was a joke in Endgame about it. I mean, that's not how it works, but no one knows how it works.
Well, exactly. It's not,
never time travelled.
Yeah, exactly. It's not real, so it can be interpreted anyway, you know. It depends how deep you want to look into it as well, John, you know. I don't look into it too deep. I mean, your mind kind of wanders and you start thinking about different things. You know, is the car from the third one in the mine just now? And this first one,
how many cars are in it? Yeah.
Is the second Marty, the Marty from the end of this film, at Twin Pines Mall at the start of the film when Doc's getting shot and we can't really see him because he's out the distance? I mean, you can go on and on, you know.
Yeah, you really could, Stephen. You could go down a rabbit hole. But look, that scene is just fantastic. As you did say, it's quick paced, stunning music.
Yeah.
Alan Silvestri is just one of the great composers. There's something about the great composers in cinema. They have their distinct style. You hear it in a movie and you just know that's him, that's a John Williams, that's a Thomas Newman, it's an Alan Silvestri, a Hans Zimmer. They all have that about them. And Silvestri's right up there. He's the cream of the crop. And this is just a stunning... I mean, we were talking about the little... and just all the little...
sounds,
quiet moments in the score as well. They all pop, they're all memorable. There's something about it. And it just makes this movie a great big melting pot of goodness.
Yeah.
If that even makes sense. Stephen, I'm trying to find where we're going after this. I think we'll talk about... Well, I mean, we'll not talk about the time travel. We've did it to the death. That's done. What's coming up next? We've got the build-up to the school dance, I want to say.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is him now trying to really get his mother and father together.
Yeah.
The dance is nearing ever closer. This night with the lightning strikes nearing ever closer. it's just not happening.
No.
He's asked out to the dance with Lorraine, and he has to try and manoeuvre this, so it's George who's taking his place. There's a lot of manoeuvring going on.
There is, John, and Marty really has to brief George on what his role in the night is going to be. You're going to see, Lorraine and I pulling up, going to be a bit of a struggle. You come, you be the saviour of the day. You're going to, get your hands off her, and you're going to whisk her off into the sunset. That's the way it's supposed to pan out. Obviously it doesn't, because that'd be a boring film if it did. But there's obviously the interactions between Doc and Marty and the setup, how he's going to get home as well.
Yeah.
That model that he makes, that he made, it was absolutely, he didn't rate it, but it wasn't to scale, etc. I thought it was amazing, and obviously there is a moment, between Doc and Marty before Marty heads off to the dance where Doc says, "You really made a difference in my life, Marty. I can't believe, this is happening. I'm really going to miss you. I can't wait 30 years to be able to talk to you about this." And there's such a nice feel to this moment. It's you feel sorry for Doc. You really do. He seems like a lonely guy, and he's finally got a friendship, and he realises it's not going to last forever because Marty's not from that time. He's got to go home, There's a bit of a guilt thing on Marty as well. He knows Doc's destiny. He knows what's going to happen to him in the future. He writes him a letter, puts it in his pocket. Such a nice scene, John. The two of them sort of just, having a moment between them. The friendship's there. There's nothing wrong with the friendship, John. I never ever thought there was.
No.
I thought it was a greatly written relationship between Doc and Marty. Obviously, it it expands as each sequel comes out as well. You get to know them a bit better, but there's something nice about it, and obviously there's obviously the altercation with Marty and Lorraine in the car. This is the point. It could be seen. It must have been a hard scene to write. It must have been a hard scene to act in as well, because of the kiss in the car. But right away, Lorraine senses this isn't right.
Yeah. When
I kiss you, it feels like I'm kissing my brother. That's the disgust in her. She can't really pinpoint it. She doesn't understand why she feels that way, but there's just something not right about it. Obviously, as the audience, we know what's not right about it.
And that's what was missing in Star Wars.
Yeah, and Marty's absolutely mortified. He can't believe what's just happened. But he's in a car. It's not like he could run away. He's in a car. It happened so quickly, and I can't believe that just happened. But he feels the footsteps coming up the car, assumes it's George. Big hand comes in, grabs him out. It's definitely not George. He's not got that kind of power in him. It's Biff and his gang. And this is the bit that kind of, it's never really sat with me what Biff's intentions were with Lorraine at this point.
He's a rapist.
Especially at the end of the film when he's in their house and stuff like that. But we'll get to that as well. But obviously the three guys, Billy Zane's one of them actually. He's a match, I think, because he's always got a match in his mouth. They take Marty away, throw him in the trunk of the car of the Starlighters, the band, who's playing at the dance, and the keys are in the trunk. So it's trying to get him out of there. The whole thing with George approaching the car as well, thinking it's Marty that's in the car. It's not. Hey, you get your damn hands off her. Turns out it's Biff, and he sees the terror in Lorraine, and she's begging for George, please help me, please
That's
help me.
That's a great scene, Stephen, when that close-up of Crispin Glover.
Yeah.
And you can see when he's grabbing his fist.
Yeah.
The anger. The anger, and he's uncomfortable.
He's shaking.
Yeah.
He's absolutely physically
it's just,
shaking.
Again, that is the calibre of acting. I think Marty McLaughlin...
Have you ever been in an altercation, John, when the adrenaline kicks in and you actually shake with the adrenaline because you're that angry with what's happened?
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Crispin Glover really pulls that off really well.
Stephen, I think Michael J. Fox has spoke about his appreciation of Crispin Glover. He thought he was such a cool guy. I think he'd seen him when he was working on Teen Wolf at the time.
Yeah, so jealous.
On the set, and he was jealous of him. So, that's the level this guy was at. He was probably above Michael J. Fox at this point. More established as an actor, and you can certainly see that in a scene like this in the close-up. He really does pull off the emotions. That whole dance thing is incredible. Obviously, when Marty gets released from the trunk, they reveal, I think he does his hand in the guitarist.
Yeah, he can't play a guitar. Yeah,
try to get him out.
Dance is over. Unless you can find someone else that can play guitar.
And then we get the Johnny B. Good and Earth Angel scene. Well, Johnny B. Good first, I think.
Earth Angel first.
Earth Angel first, and then what is the one? Oh yeah, you're right. It's Earth Angel because he starts fading.
Yeah.
And then it's obviously George finds the gumption to give Biff a good slapping. Or
It's
a
some
good
punch. Yeah,
it really is. It's
really
a 1 in a million
Yeah.
punch. And that rights the wrong. Obviously, Marty's fading. I thought that was an amazing scene visually as well.
You know when he whacks Biff, that's the sort of original timeline slotting back into place. Obviously there's differences, you know.
Yeah.
George's new sort of confidence in his life. Lorraine sees him in a different light now.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is a man that can stand up for himself, and he's protecting me as well in this instance. You know, and I don't know if you get away with that these days either.
No.
You can't have a man saving the day. But
Mansplaining.
I think it's just a great setup. There's something about the laugh in Biff as well. You know, he's just mocking George as if he's holding Lorraine down with one hand and he's got George's arm round in a lock, and he's just like, both of these are pathetic, and I'm going to own you for the rest of your life. Use my bitches. That's basically what he's getting at there, you know. Just that punch. It was absolutely amazing. It was the way that Tom Wilson actually flipped round.
Yeah.
You know, he span round about 3 times before he hit the car and just collapsed. But it was amazing, John.
Steve, we've not spoke about Tom Wilson enough in this review. I mean, he's a great antagonist, really.
Yeah.
He's a shithead, but there's something about him.
Yeah, I've seen some of his interviews, John. Obviously, you know, conventions and stuff like that since then. You know, it seems he's a very nice guy.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the sort of cast have
He's aged
mentioned
well
this.
too. My
Yeah,
God,
yeah. I mean, you know, it's
stuff.
him as well. You know, he's maybe a little bit heavier, but you know it's him. You know it's Tom Wilson, but a lot of the cast over the years have said he was just an absolute gentle giant on set. You know,
Did you find that?
and he found it very uncomfortable being the bully. You know, and you know, I suppose that's what makes him a good actor in this film. You know, and it's such a memorable role as well.
Yeah, Stephen, sadly, and luckily he's not been stuck with that sort of hatred that guys like Kevin Bacon seem to have when they do roles like this, and people think he's an absolute creep, he's a pedo, and I don't like that guy. No, he's such a good actor that he is able to portray things that are not true to life, so I think you want to be tipping your hat to the guy's acting ability, much like you do with a Tom Wilson, and not be sullying him as an absolute raging paedophile. But Stephen, obviously the timeline is righted. Well, yeah, it's righted.
Yeah, it's corrected.
He plays Johnny B. Good on the guitar. Marvin Berry phones up his cousin Chuck Berry on the phone. Listen, that new sound you've been looking for. What about this?
Yeah.
And he's playing it, and he can play it in real life. Michael J. Fox, he plays every note. I think it's double though. Yeah. With an actual professional
it's
guitarist.
Just for the sort of to make it more authentic, really, in regards to making sure his fingers are in the right place on the neck of the guitar. The singing as well is a double. It's not actually Michael J. Fox singing. I think it sounds like Michael J. Fox, but
Tom Holland.
Could be age 1 or
Back
whatever.
to the Future.
Yeah.
Steve, it's just an iconic scene, really, this scene. And obviously he goes off in a tangent, starts playing heavy shredding metal style guitar playing, and the crowd are just not having it at all. And he says a great line like, "Yous are not ready for that kind of music, guys, but one day your kids will be," or something like that.
That's right.
And then that takes us into the finale with him and Doc. That's all aside, he has a great moment with his parents as well, where I think he says, "We hope you see you sometime soon," or something. He says a funny feeling.
It's such a great name. Yeah. Why did you wait till it was your third kid before you named him that? You must have liked Dave and Linda.
Dave and
better,
Linda's terrible compared to Marty. When you think about it, it really is shocking. But Steve, it's just terrible. But the finale with Doc, what a finale it is. He's hanging off of clock towers. There's cables getting untied, and there's all sorts of things going on.
Wire,
trees falling.
Yeah, everything's
it's
going
just,
wrong.
It's tension full. It's amazingly short. It's just a really gripping end. But you know he's going to get back to the
it's great, John. You know, you've got that build up, the Islands of Vestry music again. You've got the lightning. You know, everything's you know, the wind, everything. You know, the cables are getting cut short. Doc's got to go up to the
car not starting as well.
The car's not starting. He's got to hit his head on it, and it kick starts. You know, and he's got to race right down that road.
Just perfect,
you know, just everything about it. You know, and it always makes me wonder. You know, he's got to get this right. You know, the timing of this for that rod to make the connection for the lightning to come down has got to be perfect, because if he's a second early, if he's a second late, it's not going to work. You know, and everything about it. Doc tried to get the connections back together again. He's up on top of the clock tower. He does a kind of a, what do you call one of them slides? The rope slide. You know, down to the ground to connect to the final bit up where the tree was, and then Marty, he goes right back to the future with those flames, you know, the trails right
and
down
good
the
old
road.
Doc's dancing in the street and
Yoo-hoo, yeah.
yes, absolutely. Exhilaration, but obviously it's short-lived and we'll get into that
There
second movie.
is a bit before that, John, just before we move on to obviously going back to the future, but there's another bit where Doc's asking Marty what kept him, and he's like, you didn't think I was going back in that zoot suit or something like that, and my old man, he laid out Biff with one punch. He's never had a fight in his life, and Doc's concerned about that. He's like, never? He's like, no, why? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doc knows the implications to that. He knows that the George that Marty's going to see when he goes back to the future is going to be a different George.
Yeah, and Stephen, obviously, us as audience members are like Marty, as I did say earlier. We are he's our perspective into the movie, so we are on this journey with him. When he goes back, immediately, I don't think it's immediately clear that things are different, apart from the Jeep, the 4x4 he has in the garage. But he goes in and things are distinctly different.
Yeah.
Biff is
We've got to
absolutely
remember,
good as
you've
well.
got to go back to Twin Pines Mall, John.
Yeah, I forgot about that, yeah.
Well,
Jesus
but
Christ.
the funny thing is, it's called Lone Pines Mall now, because earlier in the
Completely
movie,
discarding Doc being saved.
yeah, not mind that, it's not important. But there is that moment, and it's another little sort of tiny little thing when Marty escapes Farmer Peabody, runs over one of the pines, killing one of them, meaning it's not twins anymore, it's only one. So the mall's actually called Lone Pines Mall, which was another sort of observation that a lot of people know about now. It's one of those obvious ones, but we realised that he did keep the letter, that we thought he'd ripped up in the past, and he's got a bulletproof vest on, so he wasn't harmed in any way. Maybe a few bruises.
He was
obviously.
shot, and there's again the suspense. Did he read the letter? Did he not read the letter? I think there's a tramp as well, isn't there? When Marty flies back into the future.
Yeah.
Or into the present, because it's not the future, of course, but
It's
from
now in the
1955 it was the future, so it is the future. And Stephen, again, it's just great seeing these two guys. There's that sort of exhilaration. I want to keep saying exuberant, I don't know why, it's not even remotely the correct word, but obviously it's happy days. Doc's alive, they're back to the future, everything's right as rain. And as I did say, they go into the house, and Biff is now very much the skivvy. He's dressed in, I want to say, an Adidas tracksuit.
Yeah, a green one, yeah.
But it's just that he looks like a complete gonk in it.
Yeah, he's too overweight for that. He's not like one of the Beastie Boys or anything like that. He looks like Donald Trump in a tracksuit.
Oh, heaven forbid.
And it doesn't matter how good the tracksuit is, it looks terrible on him.
Yes, he looks much better when he's wearing the tight shirts. And back in 1955, I'd imagine tight shirts in that timeline wouldn't be very good either. No. And Stephen, obviously the family unit is, as a whole, completely different as well. The siblings are, completely different, for lack of a better word.
They're confident, for a start.
Obviously Lorraine's different, everything's different. They are much richer, it's a better furnished household.
It is, yeah.
And you made the comment, I think Dave is working in an office now.
Yeah, he always wears a suit to the office.
Yes, he always wears a suit to the office.
Not the Burger King suit he had on at the start of the film.
Yes. And this is why Crispin Glover was deeply unhappy about the end of this movie, and ultimately didn't come back for Back to the Future 2, because he had some issues.
That was one of the things.
Yeah. What happened,
We'll talk about that in this, when we're doing part 2, John.
But it was this materialistic, happily ever after ending. They've got lots more money and more material things, therefore they are a happier family unit, they're a happier period. But I can agree with him, because it is perhaps a shite message to be portraying to people who don't have access to more money and whatnot, and it's basically saying if you're poor you're forever unhappy and you're going to live really unfulfilling lives. But there is themes going on under there about the bullying and whatnot, the lack of backbone from George. He finally grows one, and this is what happens. If you grow a backbone, you stand up to bullies, you can have a very successful life, you can be much, much happier at the end of it. So there is a balance going on there, and I think
I think the messages are more positive than negative, John. That was just one of them, I think, and maybe the only one. I get what Crispin Glover's trying to say. Perhaps they could have reined in the old 4x4 truck reward at the end. I didn't really see the need for that, because obviously, apart from the one of the last scenes in part 3 when he actually gets it to drive the thing, it's not really needed. It's not really needed in that sequence at all. It didn't have to be there. It is there. That's the fact of the matter. It is there, whether or not you agree with Crispin Glover. But you're absolutely right. Most of the messages in this film are universal, John. They're understood as well, and that they're timeless. More importantly,
absolutely, Stephen. Look, performances, standouts. Who is your standout in this movie? I think I don't think I can pick one standout. There's
got
3.
2. I've actually 2, John.
You 2,
I don't think there was one bad performance in this. Perhaps Red the drunk, apart from him, he only said crazy drunk driver or something like that.
Yeah.
But apart from him, Crispin Glover and Christopher Lloyd for me. Both amazing actors, but at different ends of the scale and experience. At this point, Christopher Lloyd was an established actor. He'd done a lot of TV work, did a lot of film. You knew what you're getting with him. Just something about that character he's made his own. He's made cameos in different films with this, adverts as well. Just made this character iconic, really. Yeah. Crispin Glover, on the other hand, he's younger than Michael J. Fox. Didn't have the experience, but has something a bit of an old head on him. Just his performance as George McFly, his transformation as well, from bumbling idiot to confident, man about the house, was something just, I don't know what that was. It sounded like Marty and try to play Johnny Be Good there.
That's terrifying. That shouldn't be happening. There's nothing out there.
That was weird. But I think he's just disappeared from existence. But I think those two, Michael J. Fox is a great actor, John. He's a fantastic actor. But, I've always seen Marty McFly as a master of ceremonies. He's the audience's eyes. He's the man that sort of carries us through. He's a great actor, John. There is a reason, that obviously Michael J. Fox came in, Eric Stoltz was replaced.
We've never even spoke about that. Eric Stoltz.
Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things.
Of the movie.
And Eric Stoltz is a fantastic actor. He's went on to have a great career, so it's not like he was a terrible actor. In this sense, he's obviously been a poor choice for what kind of comedy they were going for. Michael J. Fox, he's just got that energy about him. Yeah. He certainly had the energy for this. If you ever read his book, his scheduling, filming TV work and Back to the Future simultaneously. I think he was getting maybe 2 hours sleep a night. It's fantastic, but Tom Wilson and obviously Leah Thompson as well. They were relatively unknowns. Leah Thompson probably in a couple of 80s sort of teen films at that point. I think she was in one with Eric Stoltz before Back to the Future, ironically. But for me, Christopher Lloyd and Crispin Glover.
Absolutely, Stephen, I couldn't disagree, really. Christopher Lloyd's just a magnificent actor. He's iconic now, his look. And there's something about those, obviously Marty McFly and Emmett Brown particularly, but there's something about all the characters in this movie. They all have that iconic, I mean, you can see a silhouette, or maybe not a silhouette, maybe of Marty McFly and Doc, you could do a silhouette, but you see the photographs and you just immediately know that's who they are, that's what they're from. So they've transcended time, really, and that's something we'll get into in a moment as well, what you spoke about previously. But yeah, I mean, Christopher Lloyd and Crispin Glover are probably the two best acting performances in the movie. Michael J. Fox, as you did say, and look, Thomas F. Wilson's one of the great antagonists from a movie, really. Yeah. He's just, I mean, he's not like a Darth Vader-esque antagonist, but he's perfect for this movie. Yeah. He's the right level, it's layered, almost like a good MCU movie. Yeah. They just know how to layer an antagonist for what the main protagonist is capable of facing, for lack of a better phrase. Stephen, final thoughts on the movie. I mean, we can perhaps touch upon technical aspects. I don't know if we did prior to that. I mean, we briefly spoke about Silvestri's score. Yeah. Gushingly. Set and costume design is just magnificent, really.
It's bang on.
It feels like the 50s. Yeah. The set design, we spoke about that classic Universal set. It's just fantastic. I'm trying to find out furiously who the cinematographer is in this. It's Dean Cundy, a man who's worked on the likes of Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Apollo 13 and whatnot, Jurassic Park. He's worked with Spielberg. He's magnificent, and the cinematography does lend a lot to this movie as well. Some of the cuts, as I did say, the shot of Crispin Glover becoming angry and infuriated with Biff, little things like that add so much to the movie.
Even little things like the way, it must have been an 80s thing, every road at night is wet, but in this film it's quite, it's just iconic because it's the colour of the film as well at night. You've got the lightning strikes, the ground's all lit up with the lights, and all that set dressing as well from the 50s was fantastic. It really gave it that authenticity of the time. The dress sense as well. The code of the what they were wearing in those days, the fashion, everything was nailed down perfectly. The 80s stuff as well, but that was of the time. The denim jackets, the shirts, the Nike trainers and stuff like that, all iconic now. But you're right, John, the technical aspects as well. It's one of these things that I read somewhere that there wasn't many special effects shots. I think the most special effects shots went into the time travel aspect of the the car, the flames and how how time travel looks visually and that kind of thing. But it's always comes back to the score for me. Alan Silvestri, you're right, John, you said this earlier, there's something about this guy, you just know it's his work, whether that be in Forrest Gump, whether it be in Castaway, you just know an Alan Silvestri track, and everyone knows the Back to the Future theme. Everyone, it's like Star Wars, everyone knows the Star Wars theme, whether or not you're a fan of it or not, you know it. It's just, that's how, just how powerful it is.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things, and I think the cinematography, you're right, John, there's something about some of the shots in this film are just, they stay in your head, you can actually see them if you think about it.
The silhouette of Doc dancing down the street is iconic, Steve.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many great moments, and also the shot of the DeLorean wisping off at the start of the movie with the flames. I mean, that's on the actual cover of the movie, I want to say. Well, it may actually be the one with Marty outside, but there is shots,
the flames,
the promotional stuff of the flames on the road. So again, that's cinematography and a blend of effects. Stephen, generationally, we'll do this in the final thoughts. This movie, you're right, it's generational. I mean, I'm 31. Wasn't even born. I wasn't even in the equation when this movie came out. I've seen it numerous times. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah.
I think the last time was maybe about, it was a while back. I mean, I've got the Blu-ray box set. I should really be writing that wrong and watching them all immediately, because it's just, as I did say, one of the great trilogies. But it's like Star Wars. It has a generational impact. It seems to get passed down to future generations, and it has that watchability. There's something about it. I mean, a 6 or 7 and 8 year old can watch it and they're transfixed equally as to like a 40 or a 50 year old person. So it's just magnificent. That's again the brilliance.
And it's one of those things, John, especially films that deal with time and are set in in a period that's long gone now. Even the future scenes are in our past, but nobody mocks them, nobody scoffs at them and goes, this is pathetic. You take them for what they are. A lot of the predictions, we'll talk about this obviously if we're doing Back to the Future Part 2 as a review, came true. But there's something about this, John, that, a lot of films, the fashion changes, and people's attitudes, but there's something about the storytelling that never changes. It's universal and it's timeless.
Absolutely, Stephen. Look, I think that just rounds up the actual review on that note. Universal and timeless. That's what this movie is. Final thoughts. I can't do better than that.
Universal Studios.
Timeless. It's a nice little pun, and it's timeless. Another little pun. That is just perfection, really. So we're going to round up the review on that note. What the hell do you guys make about Back to the Future? Have you not seen Back to the Future? Well, if you haven't, then I'm deeply concerned, and you really have to right that wrong immediately, because it is one of the great movies of the last 30, 40, 50 years, whatever the hell it is. My maths are terrible.
Think McFly, think.
McFly, yes. What's your thoughts on it in general? Do you love it, hate it? Are you one of those weirdos that perhaps hates it? If you've got anything to say at all, you can comment below and let us know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and you can subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this, and if you do, then you'll see us again on Monday for another movie review.